it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on this independent off-tube studio commentary. The game at the Gtech Community Stadium is just about to get underway. Our referee Simon Hooper has just started proceedings. Brentford taking on West Ham, a London derby, West against East, and Brentford traditionally do quite well against West Ham in the 3 seasons they've had in the Premier. They'll be looking to carry that on against a West Ham side who are under a bit of pressure after a shaky start, it has to be said, under Julian Lopetegui. So potentially the home side will be looking to try and get on the front foot. They're on the attack straight away inside the first few seconds. A ball coming in from the right-hand side. It was Xhada's cross. I think he may have actually got a touch on that. The goalkeeper, Areola, still kept alive here on the left-hand side for Brentford. Another deep ball coming in. And it's picked up here by Xhada, flicks it into the box before it's headed away. West Ham cannot clear their lines. It drops to Mbeumo, and Brentford take the lead for the 3rd week in a row. Brentford have got a goal inside the first 60 seconds. This is becoming a habit for the Bees now. An unbelievable start here. West Ham could barely get a touch of the ball. They could barely clear it. Brentford are in front. It's myself, Paul Szczerbakowicz, and James Smedley taking you through the action. And once again, James, I'm bringing you into the action after a goal's already been scored.
Well, it's almost like watching a replay of last weekend's game, and Mbeumo with an identical finish, in almost identical timing as well. It's a lovely finish from the Brentford forward, right into the top corner. There is nothing the keeper, Areola, could do about that one. He's just sprawling away to his left-hand side as the ball flies past him into the corner. And again, it's a deep ball into the box. Xhada does well to pick it back up. And Brentford just keep that pressure on. They don't let West Ham clear their lines. And all of a sudden, Mbeumo's got a bit of space, and his finish is sublime and flies into the top corner. So, you know, Brentford really putting the pressure on in the early moments. It's paid off well for them.
It certainly has. I mean, that's a flick header away there from Todibo. Doesn't get enough distance on it, but when it comes back to Mbeumo, you could just tell he's licking his lips here. It's going to drop at just the right height for him. To say the cross from Lewis-Potter in the game against Spurs last week dropped at a similar height for Mbeumo. This time it was just a little flick there from Carvalho off the head towards Bryan Mbeumo, but it's a lovely finish from the Cameroon international. And as I say, if West Ham were under pressure before this game started, they're under even more pressure now. We're just getting, as I say, I'm not sure if there was any kind of a VAR delay. There is a VAR check, but what's this for? Is this potentially for a handball or an offside? What's the issue? Has Carvalho got a hand on that? I'm not sure that he has. Once it drops to Mbeumo, I mean, they're saying it's a possible offside. I'm not quite sure at what phase that the offside would have been. But we're looking at, I think it has just been confirmed there is no offside. I think it might have been the long ball that started the whole move off that was being checked. The replays we were getting weren't particularly clear as far as that was concerned. But Brentford are in front. That has now been confirmed. And long clearance now from Alphonse Areola. West Ham have got to get going as quickly as possible. Long clearance that does reach Antonio at the edge of the area. But Brentford are able to clear their lines. It's a long volley clearance up towards the halfway line. James, where do you stand on the whole West Ham situation? I mean, they wanted Moyes gone. Moyes has gone, but sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for, really, haven't you?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Moyes won their first European trophy in years, and he did really, really well to bring a positive feel to the club and, you know, to the surrounding area. And I think that, you know, I'm not going to speak about, you know, what West Ham fans should and should not demand for, but maybe it was a little bit hasty getting rid of the manager. Lopetegui, you know, he's got a good side, and it's one of those where you think on the balance of results they haven't played too badly, but you know, a 5-1 thumping away at Liverpool has meant that his side are under even more pressure, and it's not like he had a second string team out either in that defeat, but he's made 7 changes today, and you know, evidently in the first minute those changes haven't really seemed to be working out too well.
Well, no, the season started well enough. They lost at home to Villa. Villa are a very good side, but then they won away to Palace. They won at home to Bournemouth in the Cup, and it's just been a nightmare for them since the end of August, really, losing at home to Man City, then a draw against Fulham, losing 3-0 at home to Chelsea, then that 5-1 reverse against the Liverpool in the Cup that you mentioned. But as I say, after this game, they're at home to Ipswich Town next weekend, and if they don't do well in that game, then they really will be under some pressure. But Bowen now with the chance. He breaks through the line and he's got a chance to try and get through towards the edge of the area. Brentford players are surrounding him, but they can't take the ball off Jarrod Bowen. And he quickly tries to turn. He wins the ball back at the edge of the area, feeds it into Souček, and he's got options here. Souček goes back to Bowen. Bowen goes for goal. Charged down at the edge of the area. There's still a chance here for West Ham on the left-hand side. Kudus keeps it alive and he goes for goal. It's a right-footed curling effort, which is a couple of yards over the bar in the end. Just overhit that one, did Mohamed Kudus. That is the only goal in the 3 o'clock kickoff so far, that goal from Bryan Mbeumo. We also have Arsenal against Leicester, Chelsea against Brighton, Everton against Crystal Palace, and Nottingham Forest against Fulham. Those games are all available on our service, as is the Wolves against Liverpool game coming up at 5:30 this evening. Brentford playing out from the back, under pressure immediately here from West Ham, but it's Damsgaard who hits a long ball over the top. One for Kevin Xhada to chase. And a combination of Kilman and Emerson just about keep the ball away from Sharda. The ball now sent back in towards the West Ham half, but Max Kilman is there, and he goes back towards area. Very good signing, you would say, Max Kilman, in terms of strengthening that West Ham defence, but it still seems to look quite open at the back. They
do indeed. It's quite surprising. They've got two very defensive midfielders today in Souček and Rodriguez. Souček, who came off the bench in their game against Chelsea the week and was fairly positive, but again, they have the 6 defenders really at the back with the 4 and then the 2 in front of them, but they seem to just leak goals all over the place. Against Chelsea, they were really, really open, surprisingly so. And I think Rodriguez, yes, is a good signing, but maybe it's one of those stereotypical things where he's been used to the pace of La Liga for a little bit too long, and maybe that jump to the Premier League where it's a lot more fast-paced, it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get used to.
No, it's a very good point. There's so many players have made that point that they arrive in the English league, and it's the physicality, but it's also the speed. You get no time on the ball, even in a defensive midfield role. You've really got to be very, very quick. But West Ham just seeing a bit more of the ball now. Brentford has sat back a little bit inside their own half. Hammer's now trying to get something started here on the left with Emerson. Side towards Paquetá, back to Emerson. He flicks the ball in. Kudus does really well to get away from Collins. Wants it back onto his left foot. Then he gets deflected. The ball gets deflected off Mohamed Kudus, and it's away for a goal kick. But Brentford don't want to be sitting back too much. They've almost invited West Ham to try and get on the ball now.
Well, absolutely. They did it against Spurs last weekend. They scored really early and they ended up conceding 3 goals because they just sat too deep and couldn't get the ball forward. I mean, yes, you've got key players out. Wissa will be a massive loss for them, and they won't. They'll want him back as soon as possible. But you've got to want to get the ball forward, because if you sit too deep, you invite the pressure on. And as I say, with Spurs last weekend, they can't afford to do that tactic again. They've got to get the ball forward and try and go for the kill in this game.
They do, and I don't think Brentford have got a team good enough to sort of just sit on the ball as well. I think they do better work when they actually try and go forward and then take it to teams, really. And just as we were saying, that bit of a mess from Brentford playing out from the back, it was a slice clearance from Flekken, and West Ham have the throw, and they've got forward. They've won themselves another throw, so they're pushing further and further up the field now are the Hammers, with Emerson taking the throw on here on the left-hand side into Souček, back to Emerson, under pressure there from Sharda, and Mbeumo now trying to get in the way of Rodriguez, and he does really well, and he's fed the ball into Sharda, who's off down the right-hand side. He puts an early ball across, and that's a vital touch there from Wan-Bissaka. If he's not there, then that would have been a free run into the box, really, for Keane Lewis-Potter. As it is, it's just a throw to Brentford, and Lewis-Potter sends it quite a long way back. But here is Vitaly Janelt now. It's Brentford looking to try and get on the ball again here with Mikkel Damsgaard. Spreads the play over towards Ayer. Back in towards Nathan Collins. West Ham set up just at the edge of the box with their offside. It's back over now with Ethan Pinnock. Fabio Carvalho. Pinnock now with a quick ball out towards the left here for Lewis-Potter, under pressure from Wan-Bissaka. Lewis-Potter trying to get into the box. 2 West Ham players stopping him, but he's still able to dance away from one. Puts a ball across the 6-yard box, and it's a last-ditch challenge there inside the 6-yard box from Jean-Claire Todibo, and it's out for a Brentford corner.
Yeah, it's a really good play, positive play from Lewis-Potter. He does really, really well to kind of just keep hold of the ball. That's going to be really important for Brentford. We just mentioned they've got to attack, but they've got to keep the ball as well, and Lewis-Potter does well, forges out a corner kick for his team, and we'll see now Brentford being a lot more positive. We'll see if they can double their advantage.
Out swinging corner coming in from the left-hand side. Oriola trying to bark some instructions out to his players. There's a couple of tall players, certainly looks like Collins and Pinnock would be some of the targets there for Bryan Mbeumo. It's going to be a left-footed outswinger from Mbeumo towards the edge of the 6-yard box. It's headed away and then flicked away by Kudus, and suddenly West Ham can go on the counter. It's a good ball from Kudus to find Mikhail Antonio, who's off down the left-hand side over the halfway line. He plays an early ball into Kudus. It's a really good ball, just a little bit overhit, but Kudus can still get on the end of this. He's got support arriving now as well. There's an overlap on the right-hand side. The ball's into the box. It's charged down. It's only cleared to the edge of the area, back to Mohamed Kudus. Then he tries to spread the play from right to left, picks out Mikhail Antonio, left-hand edge of the penalty area. Antonio now trying a diagonal ball straight back to where it came from, really. Brentford have got numbers back in the meantime, but West Ham still keep possession. It's Wan-Bissaka back to Rodriguez, and now a flick ball in from Paquetá, headed down, and it was Bowen who was trying to pull the trigger. The ball was headed away just from the edge of the area, just before Bowen could get that shot away, and now Carvalho plays the ball away. Doesn't get too much distance on it, so West Ham still have a chance to try and get the ball into the penalty area. That ball from Antonio, if it was just a little bit shorter, I think Kudus would have run onto that one-on-one then, wouldn't he?
Absolutely, but Antonio needs to pick up that central role. He is leading the line today, and he needs to get in those dangerous areas.
West Ham now trying to get the ball back into the box. It's cleared to the edge of the area, and then it's a swiping volley there from Guido Rodriguez. and he sends that one a long way away from goal and out for a goal kick. 10 minutes gone, it's Brentford 1, West Ham 0. It is Chelsea 0, Brighton 1. We did get a little VAR display on that goal update there, but it looks like the goal has now been given. It's Jorginho Rutter, former Leeds United man, giving Brighton the lead there away at Chelsea. Also getting word of a potential. There is an early goal at Goodison Park as well, where Palace leading away to Everton by a goal to 0. Mentioned that Lopetegui's under pressure. Well, potentially Dyche might be under more pressure now, of course, with takeover talks advancing at Everton. He might be under pressure not just with the results, but also with the new owners wanting a new manager anyway.
Well, I mean, we saw that at Newcastle, didn't we? Eddie Howe's done well to kind of stay in a job, but when those new owners come in and they start spending the cash a bit, there's even more pressure on a manager because they no longer have that shoestring budget, and new owners demand bigger things, and we'll see if Sean Dyche can withstand the test of time, but it's not looking too good at Goodison Park at the minute.
No, that early goal for Palace, as I say, it was Rutter that scored for Brighton to give them the lead at Chelsea. It's Mark Gay who gets the goal for Crystal Palace away at Everton. A player who, throughout most of the window, seemed to be odds on to be leaving Palace, but he stayed, and he's got them the early goal this afternoon. Goal kick now to West Ham. It was a long ball from Aya down the right-hand side to nobody in particular. So now Alphonse Areola to try and restart play here. He's going to send it long this time. There's still a few Brentford players lurking at the edge of the area. Cleared up towards the halfway line, headed forward by Damsgaard. Loose ball does get over towards the left here for West Ham, and it's Kudus now trying to get things started. Plays that back into Paquetá. That's good covering though from Schade to dispossess Lucas Paquetá. Brazilian stays on the ground. No free kick. Referee Simon Hooper's not interested, and Brentford now on the counter. Schade gets the ball back, and he's on the right hand side, edge of the area. Puts a cross into the penalty area. It's a really important header away by Wan-Bissaka because Mbeumo was lurking just behind him. Now down the left-hand side here, Collins gets that ball in towards Keane Lewis-Potter. It doesn't go out for a throw like Brentford were hoping, and now West Ham trying to get something started with a long ball towards Michail Antonio. Does really well to control it initially, but then it just plays it just a bit too far away from himself. And Brentford now have the ball back. It's a nice pace to the game, but neither team are able to really bed down yet so far.
No, and Antonio there, as I said, he's the target man today. He's back into the side, starting, leading the line for the first time since their 1-1 draw with Fulham when he was hauled off after about 60 minutes anyway. So he'll want to make a really good impression today, and part of that is scoring goals and creating chances, but part of that is just holding the ball up. And that's a loose ball. He should be taking that down, but he can't quite get it under control. And as a result, Brentford now are able to come forward.
Well, they are. Just a quick ball to Schade. Just a little bit too much pace on that for the the Brentford forward, Brentford winger. It's very hard to know exactly where his best position is. I'm not quite sure that he's the number 9 that Brentford were hoping for, but he's certainly a very tricky player, a very technical player as well, hoping to get a bit more of a run in the team now that he's free from injury, and potentially with a couple of other players out as well. Long clearance from Areola, but Brentford win it straight back here in midfield, although it was a quick ball from Damsgaard, which has been won back, but now Schade jumps in and he does win that ball back for Brentford. He gets clattered into by Emerson for his trouble. I think Brentford are asking for a yellow card here for the West Ham left-back, and referee Simon Hooper does oblige. It was just a lunge. He never got the ball, so in those situations he's always going to get booked. Yeah,
it's desperate defending there from Emerson. He'll be walking a tightrope for the rest of this game. Getting booked 14 minutes in is never a good sign for your defence, and having gone a goal behind, they can't really afford to be giving silly cards away like that. But it's not even really a necessary challenge because he could have stayed stride for stride with Schade there. But it's
just a knee-jerk reaction, is it? Just lunged into it. He thought, I'm going to try and stop him, and then by the time he realised that Schade was going to get past him, it was too late for him to back out of it, really. But a good opportunity here now for Brentford. It's around 25 yards, maybe 30 yards out from goal, slightly over on the right-hand side. A little bit too far here to be thinking about a shot at goal, but certainly an opportunity to try and cross it. West Ham have set up at the edge of the area with their offside. Fabio Carvalho is standing over it here for Brentford, and he angles the ball in to around about the penalty spot. Good header away there by Souček. A bouncing ball in front of the in front of the West Ham penalty area. It's now cleared up towards the halfway line. Antonio is chasing this for West Ham. He does get there first, does superbly well to dummy that and get it back towards Wan-Bissaka on that right-hand side. Although West Ham have just slowed the possession down now on the halfway line, but they still have the ball, pushing forward here now with Kilman. Over to Emerson, back to Max Kilman. Now turning is Kudus. He's got support here from Emerson. He puts an early ball in this time. Good header away by Nathan Collins, and then Mbeumo playing it back towards Carvalho. Brentford now trying to get forward themselves. It's Mbeumo to Damsgaard, going through the middle this time. Back to Bryan Mbeumo. We wanted to play an early ball in towards Sharda. Now that ball does go forward for Kevin Sharda. He's trying to turn away from Max Kilman. Needs some support. Here is Bryan Mbeumo breaking into the penalty area, but just trying to take on too many West Ham players at once. Good work there, though, from Damsgaard just to force the deflection of Max Kilman out for a Brentford throw. Back towards the halfway line. So Brentford now just trying to hold on to the ball that little bit more. A little bit slack, I thought, in the first few minutes after they took that early lead against West Ham. Just allowed the Hammers a bit too much license. They are just trying to rein that in now, see more of the ball themselves, but they're not getting too many options to go forward. West Ham are playing a high offside line. Now Collins over towards Ayer on the right-hand side, towards the halfway line. Pressing there from Jared Bowen. But still have the ball now. Now Pinnock over towards Collins. Under pressure there from Wan-Bissaka, back towards Mark Flekken. Certainly from West Ham's point of view, conceding that early would have put them under a huge amount of pressure, but then it also means they have a whole lot of time to try and make up for that as well. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they'll be very knowledgeable, West Ham, of Brentford's defeat last weekend against Tottenham. Yes, they did take the lead early, but then, I want to say, collapsed after 15, 20 minutes. So West Ham will know this. They'll still have a lot of confidence in their key players like Lucas Paqueta, and they'll be very mindful that they can get back into this game. It's just a matter of creating those kind of chances, because so far they've sat quite deep in there. It seems to be playing the counter-attack kind of game here. So they'll want to get a foot on the ball, play it out wide, and get some chances created, because as it stands, they're not really creating too much in and around that Brentford half. Well, no, they're not. And Brentford have won themselves a free kick here in the meantime on the right-hand side, and it's Carvalho and Mbeumo standing over it. And Vandenberg and others have made it towards the edge of the West Ham penalty. West Ham have set up at the edge of the D with their offside, just to make it that bit more difficult for Brentford to get into the box. Awful free kick from Fabio Carvalho. He hits that at about, it's pretty much at ground level, and it doesn't even reach the penalty area, and it's easily cleared back into midfield. So a wasted set piece there from the home side. Ayer then goes out towards the left-hand side, where Sharda has found himself this time. And towards Carvalho, Damsgaard to Vandenberg. Mbeumo's waiting there on the right-hand side. Back in towards Vandenberg again. So West Ham trying to push out. Brentford keeping the ball, but not making any kind of progress in terms of getting nearer that West Ham penalty area. It's Pinnock now out towards Collins on the left-hand side. The pressure there, Nathan Collins back in towards the middle. And trying to think about a long ball again, but it's just this time there is a long ball from Collins, and he was trying to pick out Lewis-Potter, but it was so obvious to Wan-Bissaka where that ball was going. He was able to get underneath it, win the header, and now it's Bowen up towards Antonio. Back to Wan-Bissaka. Still no options here for West Ham to go on a quick counter. Todibo then into Max Kilman. Rodriguez now trying to turn away from pressure there from Carvalho. 18 minutes gone on official independent off Tube Studio commentary. It is Brentford 1, West Ham 0. Todibo now spreading the play over towards the left. Emerson does well, bouncing ball, he keeps it in play, finds Kudus. Kudus then to Emerson. Bit of a miscommunication there between those two players, and it's out for a Brentford throw. Yeah, really poor ball there from Kudus, but you can see what he's trying to do. They're trying to force the overlap, West Ham, with Emerson pushing really, really high from that left-back position to try and overload the Brentford fullbacks, but it needs to be a little bit more accurate at the passing than that, and they're going to really struggle, West Ham, going forward if they can't get the basics right. They've got to try and just, as I say, Brentford can be got at. They're a team that the whole time that Thomas Frank's been manager, they've not been famous for their defensive stability, so it is a team that can be got at, but you've got to be able to get that attacking possession, as Brentford are caught in possession, and now a chance for West Ham to get into the box. Paqueta trying to pick out Antonio. Brentford just about get enough bodies in the way for it's played back to Flekken, and then he then clears it anywhere, in fact, just to get that ball away from his own penalty area. So looking at the other scores, it's just Arsenal, Leicester and Nottingham Forest, Fulham that are still goalless. Brentford lead against West Ham in this game. Chelsea a goal down at home to Brighton. Everton a goal down at home to Palace. Here come West Ham now. A long ball to Bowen. He wasn't able to control that. Janelt then to Carvalho. A nice little touchdown to Damsgaard, and he feeds the ball out towards the left-hand side. And suddenly Brentford are on the counter, and it's actually Ayer that's pushing forward down the left. Bit of a disappointing attempt there to try and get past Todibo. It's cleared back into midfield, but Brentford still have the ball. And it's now with Damsgaard. He finds Mbeumo. Over towards the right-hand side, it's Sharda's cross, gets a big deflection on the way in towards the penalty area. That allows Souček to get underneath the ball and clear it towards the halfway line. Brentford come again, though, down the right-hand side, and Mbeumo into Szczerba. Szczerba trying to skip away from Emerson, showed too much of the ball, though, and it's now been won back by West Ham, and more specifically it's by Jared Bowen pushing into the Brentford half. Needs some support, though, just leaves the ball for Thomas Souček. Souček now ranging forward with Bowen on the right-hand side. There's an overlap here from Wan-Bissaka. Goals going in elsewhere in the Premier League, just to confirm. Arsenal have now taken the lead against Leicester City. Martinelli with the goal for Arsenal, and Chelsea have an equaliser against Brighton. Just waiting for a confirmation of that goal scorer for Chelsea. In fact, we've just been told that goal hasn't been scored by Chelsea, so it's still Chelsea 0, Brighton 1 in that game. So for the time being, 20 minutes gone here. Here come West Ham again with Emerson down the left-hand side. Options here, and it's sort of toing and froing here from both teams without any sort of attacking progress, really.
Yeah, West Ham, they're trying to grow back into this game. They're overlapping well. Wan-Bissaka specifically loves to get forward, and he's done so on a few occasions, but the final ball just isn't quite there. They don't have that presence in the middle of the box, in the 6-yard area, where Antonio should be, but apart from him, they don't really have that kind of attacking presence in the box to get on the end of the crosses that are being put in. Brentford sitting deep and defending really, really well from these wide areas, and at the moment, it looks like Brentford are going to be able to hold on for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a case of whether West Ham have got any kind of variation on this to try and just surprise or catch Brentford out. It was actually Lewis-Potter pushing forward. He missed the ball, and now that has opened up the right-hand side here for West Ham. Wan-Bissaka into Paquetá, who gets all the way to the byline, lifts the ball into the penalty area. Kudus going for goal, but there's a Brentford player pretty much stood on him there, blocking him. It was Sepp Vandenberg, and it's deflected out. It's either going to be a throw or a corner to West Ham on this left-hand side. But that's exactly it. They just had that extra man over, and all of a sudden they put Brentford under pressure.
Absolutely. Brentford just packing the 6-yard box full of players. I think they've got 3 or 4 in the 6-yard area, which just means that West Ham can't get anything on the end of these crosses. They've only got Antonio really as the physical presence inside that box, and that means that as many crosses as they put in, they're not really going to be able to gain any advantage from them. Well,
this time they don't put a cross in. It's just a low ball towards the edge of the area that it sets up for a shot from Jared Bowen. The trouble with that was that Bowen wasn't really set. His body wasn't set. There wasn't really anybody. There wasn't any other options for him, and he just drags the shot wide. So it was a waste of a set piece from West Ham in the end.
Yeah, I think he gets caught in two minds there, Jared Bowen. He's looking at Antonio, who's making a run across, but he doesn't have enough room to be able to lift that ball over into the danger zone for Antonio to get on the end of. So I think he's caught in two minds, goes for a shot, but drags it very far wide of the post. But positive from West Ham, and I think that's what they need to do. They need to get the ball on the floor and try play round Brentford, because they're not going to be able to do it playing through them.
Well, on this occasion, Brentford were trying to play out from the back, and they very nearly lost the ball at the edge of their own box. So this is exactly what West Ham need to do, just put a bit more pressure on the home side. Just to tell you that Chelsea have now equalised against Brighton. There's no error, there's no VAR. The goal has been given, and it's Cole Palmer with the goal there for Chelsea. So it is 1-1 in that game, and potentially we're also hearing of another goal for Chelsea in that one. So it's been reversed very quickly there at Stamford Bridge. Here at the Gtech, it's just Mark Flekken slowly wandering out from the edge of his penalty area. Can't take too long now because he's been closed down by Michail Antonio. Finds a pass over to Aya, and then a spin there from Lewis-Potter. He did actually get away from Wan-Bissaka, but there was also covering there from Rodriguez, and now it's Todibo playing it back towards Areola. So we're past the halfway mark in this first half. It is Brentford 1, West Ham 0, and it will be James to take us through to half-time.
Thank you very much, Paul. Brentford getting on the ball straight away. It was a ball from Areola that's picked up by Szczerba. Szczerba then goes inside to Carvalho, who's pushed a lot more forward. He's in that advanced role. It's set up as a midfield 3 or 4 this for Brentford, but Carvalho pushing up really, really high, creating that space for himself, because I think he needs that bit of room as a midfielder. He was fairly absent in that game against Tottenham, and you know, if he wants to be influential, he needs that space, so pushing up a bit higher is exactly what Thomas Frank will want from him. Brentford regain possession now. Ball back into the middle from Janelt, goes back towards Ethan Pinnock. He's got a little bit of time, and Ayer's making that overlap at the top, but Pinnock decides against it, goes short in towards Carvalho. Long ball out looking for Szczerba. It's intercepted by Todibo, and the referee's actually given that as offside, so it will be a West Ham free kick just outside of their box. Kilman will restart proceedings, and I mentioned Carvalho, and Paul, you'll have more knowledge on this because you've covered Brentford a few more times, but Hull last year, I think he was very, very good at times when he popped up in that bit of space. You know, he likes the ball tight, on his touch, and he likes to get those snapshots off, but in games like this, when they're under a bit of pressure, can he be that main man, that influential player?
It's a difficult one. I think that he's certainly going to be they're going to try and push him into that role. I think where he's going to be have a bit more. We'll come back to that because here come West Ham on the counter.
Yeah, Kudus has got a bit of space, finds the shot, parried well by Flekken, but it's back into his hands. That was a comfortable save at the end for the Brentford keeper.
It was, yeah. I mean, I think with the issue with Carvalho is that he's got all the talent to be a really good number 10. Whether or not he can be that little bit more of an influential player when Brentford haven't got the ball, when they are under a little bit more pressure, that remains to be seen. I think that it's what he's been brought in for, to try and give them that little bit more quality in that midfield. I think there was a little bit of a complaint from quite a few Brentford fans last season that the midfield was a little bit too workmanlike, too much of a sort of slant on defensive midfield. So now players like Carvalho have been brought in to try and sort of spice that up a little bit.
Absolutely, you need that creative freedom as well in the Premier League to create chances against teams like West Ham, who are going to defend very deep with those two midfielders. West Ham coming forward now, it's a poor ball there by Emerson, which he just kind of hits off Mbeumo, and Brentford look to regain possession, but then Emerson does well to shield that out for a throw-in. But the referee's actually flagged it as offside, so I think it was Emerson's run there. He's made a 1-2 with Mbeumo of all people, and then I think it took a little bit of a nick off Paqueta and goes out for a throw-in for an offside. So West Ham, Brentford will restart from just the right-hand side of their own box. Referee just a little bit of a pause in place. We can have a breather. It's been very frantic, I think. That's been a key theme of Brentford games in recent weeks. They score early, and then the ball seems to just be all over the pitch for them. They're playing out well from the back here, though. Ball out wide now, a little bit of a run for Ayer on the far side. Carvalho does well to win the ball off Wan-Bissaka, and it'll go out for a throw-in to Brentford on the left-hand side. But what do Brentford need to do to regain a little bit more control in the midfield area? Because it is very frantic at times.
It is. I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to play out from the back, but then when they get into midfield, they're met with a wall of West Ham players, so they're kind of worrying what to do then. So they try and sort of stop and go out wide, and then there's covering there from West Ham. So it's almost like whatever Brentford are doing in terms of their midfield possession, they're not surprising West Ham at the moment, and that's where I think they need to just try have a little bit more variety, perhaps try the odd diagonal quick ball over the top, try and do something to get a quick player like Lewis-Potter or Szczerbakowicz into the game a little bit more, because they've sort of drifted out in the last few minutes.
Absolutely. I think playing out from the back as well, you need to have a plan for once you get past the first line of defence, because it's all well and good playing out from the back, centre back to keeper, then out wide, but then you've got to have a plan for what you're going to do next. You can't just rely on playing out from the back and then think, well, we're here in the midfield area, we've now got to attack and we don't really know what to do. So they need more of a structure, I think, going forward to create more chances.
Absolutely. I mean, there are some pundits who think that the whole playing out from the back thing is just a trend, so I'd be interested to see if that is true, if at some point some teams just say, sod this, and we're just going to start launching it long from every goal kick. But something tells me that there's always going to be a little bit of that left in football now, that teams are just going to want to have that little bit more pragmatic possession. But yeah, certainly from Brentford's point of view, they're not as direct as they could be really with the amount of possession they've had, whereas West Ham as the away side, and of course they're trailing as well, when they get the ball there just seems to be a little bit more in impetus as to what they want to do.
Yeah, I think that might be to do with the physical threat that Antonio holds as well. Brentford with the ball now with Jan out in the midfield area. They've kept the ball for a little while now, the Bees, and they've moved it around quite nicely. Ball out wide to Mbeumo, who's drifted very far wide. I think him and Shadow just interchanged positions, but Mbeumo driving in here. He had the overlap option of Van der Berg, but it was intercepted well by Kudus, who's dropped really deep to help his side defend. Kudus plays it inside to Paqueta. West Ham with some risky play out from the back, but they do well. Ball with Bowen now, they're advancing forward here. Bissaka on the right-hand side, he's got a chance to cut in. He's got options inside, and one of those is Paqueta, who he now uses. This is a really good opportunity for West Ham. They've gone all the way from their own box. Now coming forward here, Bissaka with the ball back at his feet. He's got an opportunity to cross, but decides against it, keeps hold of the ball, then plays it into Kudus. Kudus squared up by Ethan Pinnock and has a little bit of a dance around, and then swings a ball into the area towards Antonio, but it's just about kept in by Kudus, and well, it actually isn't. It's gone out for a goal kick, but good build-up play from West Ham there.
Yeah, the way they're getting forward is good. It's just that their final third pass, their final third cross into the box has let them down a little bit. But certainly Lopetegui can't complain that his side haven't had the half chances to get forward. They've had more than enough of an opportunity to actually make inroads into this Brentford defence. But for the time being, the home side are holding firm.
They are indeed, and Brentford trying to play out from the back here again. It's Van der Berg playing a ball forward, looking for Shadow, but Shadow's just kind of out-muscled by Emerson on the right-hand side of the pitch, just on the halfway line. So that'll be a throw-in for the Irons. Seeing pictures of Thomas Frank demanding his team get forward. I think that's the general consensus I'm getting there from those arm gestures. Emerson with the free kick plays it inside towards Kilman, back in to Kilman from Paqueta. Paqueta then loses out on the ball, but Emerson wins it back. This is what I mean about the frantic nature of Brentford games at the moment. The ball is just pinballing around, and now it's back at the feet of Todibo. They do have a little bit of breathing space now, West Ham. Brentford sitting off a little bit. Wan-Bissaka coming forward here, he's got a bit of room inside. a couple of options, but Brentford again remaining in that rigid 4-4-2 structure, which is keeping West Ham at bay so far in this game. Kudus then goes out wide to Antonio, who's drifted really far, almost playing as a left winger, swings in a good ball into the area, looking for Souček, but it was a combination of Pinnock and Van der Berg who just are able to divert that ball over for a corner kick.
Again, it's been a good few minute spell now for West Ham, where Brentford have struggled to get anything past the halfway line, really. West Ham coming time and time again. Nothing too dangerous into the penalty area so far, but the build-up is looking good from West Ham.
It is, and they've got a corner kick here. West Ham's first set piece of any note, so we'll see if they've got their physical presence of certainly Thomas Souček, who I was reminiscing last weekend covering a West Ham game that he has such a lovely season of form for West Ham, but he just needs to try and emulate that. Corner kick from Bowen finds its way out to Wan-Bissaka, who has a snapshot of goal from about 25 yards, and it's hit straight into a wall of red and white bodies, and eventually Ayer is able to clear. Ball comes back to him from the clearance, and now Brentford have an opportunity to break away. Ball out wide to Mbeumo, who's afforded a little bit of space by Kilman, and he can just drift forward, then go backwards towards Ayer. Brentford in possession just in front of the halfway line. Back to Mbeumo. He's got an overlapping run from Carvalho, and that ball just looked to be reaching the Portuguese midfielder, but it just rolls out of play for a goal kick. But Brentford are starting to kind of put a few more passes together.
They're trying to respond, because West Ham did have a good long spell of possession there, so they are just trying to do something a little bit quick, just to try and buck that trend a little. Just to tell you that things have been completely reversed at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea were a goal down at home to Brighton. But now Palmer has levelled for Chelsea. Then there was an offside goal disallowed from Jadon Sancho. Then Palmer put Chelsea 2-1 up from the penalty spot. And now Cole Palmer has hit half-time hat-trick. A first-half hat-trick, I should say. And Chelsea now 3-1 up at home to Brighton. So a reversal there. But here come West Ham down the right-hand side.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka has a bit of room to put across him, but it's really good defending there from Ayer, who just gets across so well. He's not the best at going forward, Ayer. He's quite physical, quite sluggish, not the best with the ball at his feet, but he does defend really, really well in that wide area.
He does. I mean, he's been sort of moulded into that right-sided, left-sided defender. I think he is more of a centre-back really by trade, but just because Brentford have been short of full-backs, he's been put into that role. But West Ham now winning back here, and it's Antonio at the edge of the area going for goal, and he drags it wide. Breaking into the box, he'll be disappointed with that one. Antonio should have tested the keeper, really.
Yeah, it was a bamboozling move forward there from West Ham. Antonio and Bowen seem to just be stepping on each other's toes, and eventually the ball does break for the Jamaican striker, and his strike is just wide of the post. He should be doing a lot better. I think if he hits that to the goalkeeper's left, maybe at least it'll be on target or test the keeper, but it rolls agonisingly wide of the right post, and Brentford are quite lucky there to escape without a shot being put onto their goal. West Ham back with the ball at the feet of Wan-Bissaka. Paqueta's got a little bit of space and tries a flick, but it's really poor, and Brentford come away with it. Carvalho's fouled in the midfield there with Rodriguez, and then Brentford able to get a good ball out wide. It's out to the feet of Sharda. He plays a ball into Mbeumo, who's got a little bit of space and time, but he's faced up by Kilman, so has to go backwards. Ball to Janel, and then eventually West Ham do break away with Kudus. He's coming forward here, but he's almost boxed in by 3 Brentford midfielders, but he's still got the ball at his feet, Kudus. Coming forward here, he's taken out by Janel, but stays on his feet. He's still going his Kudus, and then eventually Brentford just about get the ball back to their goalkeeper.
It was a great run that from Mohamed Kudus, but I think in the end he just left himself a little bit too much to do at the edge of the area, and Collins just got enough of a touch on that just to try and put him off his stride, and then Brentford were able to clear their lines. But they get up to the halfway line, the home side, and West Ham won it straight back. Well, just as I say that, though, Emerson's been robbed of the ball, and now it's potentially a chance for Brentford to get forward.
Yeah, and Brentford with the ball at his feet, striding forward. The game is just, as I say, frantic is the word I'd use. Neither team able to really keep the ball longer than a minute, I'd say, and especially when we get into those midfield areas, because of the number of bodies, it's almost like a pinball machine in that middle third of the pitch. Ball swinging in now from Janel, looking for the back post. It was Mbeumo who was there, and his header is agonisingly over the crossbar, and that was a decent chance for Brentford to double their advantage.
It was a good chance, and Mbeumo's still down on the ground. Hopefully it's nothing too serious for him. But this was good responses from Brentford after a long spell of West Ham being in the ascendancy. It was just outside the box here with Carvalho, out towards Damsgaard, and his ball into the box, and Mbeumo went for goal. I mean, it's an attempted challenge there, which maybe this is why Mbeumo's still down on the ground, but I don't think there's anything wrong from a West Ham point of view. Well, as I say, it's hands on the back of Mbeumo, but not enough VAR to get interested, I don't think, as we've got a 5th goal at Stamford Bridge. What a first half it is at Stamford Bridge. It's now Chelsea 3, Brighton 2, and Brighton have got another goal back. We're just waiting for confirmation of the goal scorer in that one. But it's looking like a really good game there at Stamford Bridge.
Now Brentford can come forward. It's Lewis-Potter who's got a bit of space on that left-hand side, sorry. He's squared up by Wan-Bissaka, but he's still got the ball. Lewis-Potter driving forward, looks to try and get across into the middle. It falls to Carvalho, but his body shape was all wrong, and he can only head the ball backwards to a West Ham player in Mohamed Kudus, who again is squared up by 3 Brentford midfielders. Gets the ball back to Souček, then wide to Emerson. Emerson back into the feet of Collins, Kilman, and back to Areola. Areola goes out wide to Wan-Bissaka, but he can't quite keep the ball in play.
No, it was a bouncing ball. Areola was already a second favourite to get there at all. The fact that he was able to get his body there but couldn't quite keep it in play. And in fairness, credit to West Ham, they flooded, surrounded the 2 Brentford players involved in that throw-on, but it's gone out for another throw to Brentford.
Yeah, and I think the referee is given a free kick away here, because I think...
For the obstruction, possibly?
Yeah, I think West Ham tried to take the... they tried to block off the quick Brentford throw, and then the referee has given a throw-in right on the byline on the left-hand side of the pitch. This is a good opportunity here. It's almost like an advanced corner kick, which has just been pulled back about 10 or 15 so yards.
Which ironically actually means there's more of an angle to try and curl that ball into the box, and I'm surprised that the Brentford have decided not to have a right-footed option really, because it's inviting an in-swinger, but it's going to be the left foot of Mbeumo out-swinging this one.
It is indeed. You've got Sharda in the middle, who's really that aerial threat, along with Ayer and Ethan Pinnock, who will Mbeumo will be looking to get this ball to. It's going to be, as you said, a left-footed out-swinging delivery into the middle, looking for Sharda at the back post, and I think it was Todibo who just does enough to get the ball away. Ball bounces to Carvalho, can't quite get it down. Then it's out wide to Sharda, then Pinnock, then back into the midfield area, and then it's a foul being given away. That's a bit of a dodgy one. It was Kilman. It was
Rodriguez, I think, who's
yeah,
gone in there. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really quite sure what Rodriguez is doing there, because as a defensive midfielder, he's got to be in a better. He's got to make a better choice there. He was going across Sharda's body to try and win the ball when he was. No, I mean, the defensive coaches would be tearing their hair out for that, because he's got no chance of getting there at any stage.
That's what I mean about the pace thing. I think maybe he needs to adjust the pace of the league, because it's just so easy for Sharda to skip past him, and then he's left in no man's land with a decision to make, and he makes the wrong one there by taking out the German forward. And this is a really good opportunity for Brentford. You've got again Mbeumo and Carvalho, the 2 designated set piece takers, standing over this one. It's going to either be a right or a left-footed delivery, and you think they have to be going directly for goal here.
I think so. I think it's too close to goal, and it's too central for a cross to even surprise the goalkeeper or defence. So it looks like Mbeumo's going to try and hit this one into the top corner. Yeah,
he's looking for his and Brentford's second goal of the game. He steps up, left-footed strike into the wall. That's a bit of a poor attempt there from the Brentford man.
Yeah, never got the right lift on that one in Mbeumo. It strikes the wall at sort of like chest height, so it wasn't the worst, but it was still far too low. It's now back with Flekken, who sends a long ball, 2 long ball in fact, into the box, and an easy one for Areola.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where the free kick might have been a little bit too close, if anything, so he can't quite get the height and then the dip to come back down. And
yeah, he's worried too much about it being too high, and it never gets it high enough in the end, yeah. Ironically enough. But yes, a little warning that for West Ham, that if they start to be too lax at the edge of their own box, Brentford will try and take advantage.
Absolutely. It's now at the feet of Areola again, plays a long ball out to the left-hand side of the pitch, looking for Kudus, but it's dealt well in the air by Van der Berg, and then cleared way by Lewis-Potter. Ball out for a throw-in now to West Ham on the left-hand side of the pitch, which Emerson will take to restart play. He goes forward, looking for Kudus again. He almost seems to have, a collection, a swarm of Brentford players around every time he gets the ball, but he's done well to get out to Paqueta, but then it's dealt with really, really well in that midfield area by Van der Berg, and out for a throw-in again. West Ham just can't quite seem to make a string of passes to get forward.
They can't. I mean, you've made that point about Kudus, and it almost looks like it's been said in the dressing room that he's got to have at least 2, if not 3 players trying to stop what he's doing. Brentford have clearly marked him as West Ham's most dangerous threat, but here is Kudus now on the ball.
He is. He lays it off to Emerson, who's got a little bit of space, goes backwards to Paqueta. His ball is sweeping, but can't quite find Jared Bowen. It's picked up in the middle by Janelt, who's under a lot of pressure here, and he is just about able to get the ball backwards. Goes towards the feet of Collins. Collins then gets it forward back to Janelt, then back to Van der Berg. Brentford can't really seem to be able to play out from the back into any position of threat, so then go across their own box towards Pinnock. Pinnock squared up by Jared Bowen, but has the ball out wide of Ayer and finds him. Ayer's got a bit of space to advance now. He's got options down the left-hand side of Lewis-Potter, but it was dealt with well by Wan-Bissaka, and he's now got a chance to strive inside and find a pass of Kudus, who he now does. Kudus then goes backwards to Paqueta, who's dropped really, really deep. I'm surprised by that, actually, because West Ham seem to need that kind of creative spark in midfield, and yet Paqueta seems so deep every time they get the ball.
He does. I mean, there he rolls the ball into Kudus, and I would hope from West Ham's point of view that he pushed forward, but I'm looking at where he is on the pitch. No, he hasn't. He's still 45, 50 yards out from goal. I mean, he's pretty much stood level with where Kilman and Todibo are, and that's not where you want Paqueta to be. I agree with you that he's got to be further forward, and then eventually just lobs the ball up towards the edge of the box, which is catching practice for Flekken, so Paqueta's got to do better there.
Yeah, now Brentford coming forward, though. It's Van der Berg combining well with Mbeumo, and Mbeumo now has the ball at his feet, squared up by Wan-Bissaka, and then has to play it inside towards Janelt. Janelt then gets the ball out of his feet, but he's again squared up by Soucek. It's really, really packed in that midfield area. I think the two defensive midfields for Brentford and the two defensive midfields for West Ham are kind of cancelling each other out.
They are. I think both managers have got to do something to rejig their midfields at half-time, because I think both would say that Brentford as the home side with the lead should be a little bit more confident and advancing forward, and West Ham with the attacking midfielders they have in their team, they should be doing more as well. But the stats say it all. 3 shots from Brentford, only one of them was on target. That was the goal. West Ham have had 9 efforts and only one of those was on target.
Well, Brentford, after they opened the scoring, didn't have another shot for 30 minutes until that Mbeumo header. So if that doesn't tell you about how proceedings have been so far, I don't know what will. Neither side really able to create any opportunities of real menace, apart from the one in the opening 30 seconds in which Mbeumo volleyed into the top right-hand corner. But here come Brentford now. Charlotte's got a bit of space down that right-hand side to put a cross in on his right foot. He does, looking for Mbeumo, but it's dealt with well in the midfield by Kilman. Ball then from Janel, or Damsgaard it is. It was Van der Berg, I do apologise, who snapshot with his right foot sails well over the crossbar.
Yeah, I mean, he made his mind up quite quickly there, Van der Berg, as he was pushing in from the right-hand side. In fairness, he took it down quite nicely, so there was the incentive there to really just put his right foot through that. But say with players closing him down and him off balance, he leans back and sends that one a long way over.
Yeah, another goal for Chelsea, another goal for Cole Palmer. That's 4 goals in 41 minutes for the English midfielder, so it's 4-2 in that game. But now, in this game, West Ham coming forward. Paqueta, who now does advance, feeds Bowen out on the right-hand side. He's got a chance to go for goal himself, but he just overruns it. That's really good defending there from Brentford, and he's just shepherded out of play by Janel, so that'll be a goal kick for Brentford.
Yeah, again, it's just overplayed a little bit, but these are glimmers that West Ham are going to be trying to build on in the second half. The fact that they are getting enough possession, enough chances to attack this Brentford defence, they just haven't been able to get the clear-cut passes into Antonio. And in fairness, all 4 of the West Ham attacking players today have looked a little bit off colour. Kudus has had a lot of the ball, but hasn't really been able to get his shots away. Paqueta, as we both noticed, it seems to be playing a lot deeper and not getting involved, which is not good for a number 10. And then Bowen and Antonio are sort of playing at a 5.5, 6 out of 10 so far. So all of those players could improve in the second half.
I think it's one of those for Paqueta where it's a lot easier to drop deeper in a game like this because there's so much congestion in the midfield area. But really, you want your creative number 10 to kind of grab the game by the scruff of the neck, get the ball forward and get the ball into
You want him getting it into that congestion, really, and actually trying to get something out of it, absolutely. And that's something that I'm sure Lopetegui will be reminding Paqueta at half-time. We've still got a couple of minutes before the break, though, and it's West Ham in possession. Yeah,
Antonio's dropped really deep again, gets the ball on his right foot, looks to play a long ball forward, but decides against it. He's got an overlap of Emerson on the left-hand side and does find him. Emerson's squared up by Van der Berg, so just takes it inside a little bit and then goes backwards towards Rodriguez, then back into Emerson. He's got a little bit of space here to find the shot, but he's out-muscled by Carvalho and Damsgaard, so his shot just dribbles wide of the post. But again, it's so much congestion in that midfield area, and with half-time approaching, you think both managers would have a lot to say about that.
They will, yeah. I think that looking at Lopetegui, well, in fact, looking at the 2 benches from West Ham's perspective, I mean, they have got Somerville as a sort of alternative for number 10. They've got Luis Guilherme, the young Brazilian, who was actually on his way to Brentford until West Ham hijacked the deal, ironically enough. But certainly, I would expect to see Somerville. Ings has come off the bench and got a couple of late goals for West Ham recently, so that might be something that they're going to consider as well. But Brentford are missing quite a few players, of course, with injury, so there's a few more young players and less known names on their bench. So I'd still say that there's more than enough scope here for West Ham to get something from this game, but they've just got to be more consistent and more productive with possession.
Ball now at the feet of Mbeumo, who seems to be everywhere for Brentford. He's really their main man. With the injuries they've got, of Wissa especially being the main one, he's had to really take hold of this team and try to drive them forward. And 2 goals in his last 2 games have really proved that he's up to that task. But he'll have to be a little bit more involved today. A bit better. He needs a bit better service from players like Schade, who he's got 5 appearances, the German forward, no goals, no assists. But he's been quite promising today, I think, on that wide area.
He has. He's had problems with injuries since he's been at Brentford, and even when he was fit, there was a bit of a queue ahead of him to get into those attacking positions. But he's going to get his chance now, similar to Lewis-Potter, really, who's sort of had bit part chances last season, but now he's getting more of an opportunity. But from Thomas Frank's point of view, I think he needs to just remind his players that they are the home team in this game. I think the way they've backed off at times, will just break off from that, though, because Brentford have given the ball away.
Yeah, they have indeed. Souček coming forward now. Ball into the feet of Rodriguez. Brentford give the ball away in a really dangerous position, but West Ham couldn't quite get forward. Now it's Jarrod Bowen. Combines well with Paqueta, then back to Bowen, but again, Ayer's there to defend really well and make sure that Jarrod Bowen couldn't quite get the right side of him and get a shot away on goal. He's done really well, Ayer, to deal with that threat of Jarrod Bowen so far this game, I think.
He's done very well, but I say it's given a corner kick away now, and really that's still a mistake from Brentford's point of view. Just seen the fourth official's board, it's just 1 minute been added. We haven't really had too many stoppages in this first half.
No, it's going to be a corner kick then to close out proceedings. In-swinging ball from Jarrod Bowen right on the goalkeeper. Flekken has to deal with that because he was under pressure from Souček, but it's not quite clear. Back to Todibo, and for some strange reason, which I can't quite fathom, he decides to volley it with the inside of his foot off balance, and that sails over the crossbar. So relinquishes the pressure on Brentford, and they'll be very, very happy to see that one sail over.
Well, again, frustration there for West Ham, because after it was a very good cross, because Flekken isn't the league's best goalkeeper when it comes to crosses, so it makes sense to try and fire something at him. But when he punches it towards the edge there, there's a West Ham player nodding it back towards the box. And as you say, Todibo just turns and suddenly decided that he was going to do something that many forward players would have to think twice about, and the shot went very badly wrong.
Yeah, goal kick here from Flekken, and that's it for the first half. Brentford leading 1-0 against West Ham. Join us for half-time.